Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the Online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are trying out a super exciting anti-meta team that finished 5th in the previous ranked season, built and piloted by a Japanese player called Ko. I've linked them in the description below, as well as a rental and a paste for the team, and a team report written by Ko in Japanese. All of that good stuff is down in the description below. And as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below. And thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoy, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. I was looking through the top ranking teams from the previous ranked season, and, most of the teams were relatively standard, nothing too crazy, and then I scrolled down and this was at 5th place, and this team is just wild, right? I don't even know where to really start with it because there's so many cool sets and so many cool Pokemon. And to finish 5th in the ranked season is really difficult, right? Like, you have to be incredibly consistent to get there. And so even though this team features a very unorthodox restricted duo, I think there are so many interesting things that are really strong about this team. And so, yeah, let's break down all the individual sets. So pulling up the paste here, the first thing we have to talk about, of course, is the Eldegoss. Now, Eldegoss is not a Pokemon that's very common at all in Series 12, let alone throughout all of Sword and Shield. We haven't really used it very much on Road to Ranked at all, and that's part of the reason why I really wanted to feature this team, right? So what does Eldegoss do? Why is it a unique pick in Series 12? There are a couple of reasons. First of all, it gets access to Sleep Powder. Being able to put any Pokemon to sleep, especially in a Dynamax format, is just so incredibly valuable. And honestly, before I pulled up this team, I didn't even know what moves Eldegoss got access to, right? So I think there's a decent chance that when you use this team, your opponents won't even know what Eldegoss does, and they don't expect Sleep Powder or respect it. And that's a really big deal in itself, right? Because a single Sleep Powder connecting can completely turn the tides into your favor. So Sleep alone is already a really big deal. We also have to talk about its ability, Cotton Down. Now, Cotton Down will activate when your opponent hits Eldegoss with an attack, and Eldegoss will drop the speed of all Pokemon on the field, including your partner. So normally it doesn't seem like it's very effective, right? But when you combine it with the Solgaleo, which does not get any stat drops thanks to its ability, suddenly it actually has a lot more value. So you want to use Eldegoss actually as a means of speed control as well, especially in the late game when you've gotten enough knockouts where your opponent can't just easily switch in and out, right? And being able to drop something speed, especially when it's a Dynamax Pokemon, is really critical in this format as well. So Cotton Down is a really unique ability. I think it operates pretty differently as a means of speed control, right? I actually am not used to using Eldegoss at all, so I think it'll be interesting to explore how it'll be relevant while we play some battles, but that's another reason to use it. The third reason is that Eldegoss resists, Precipice Blades and Water Spout, and so being able to resist some of the most common attacks from some of the most common restricted Pokemon is super valuable. So this is a supportive set, but you've got Leaf Storm, which can be really valuable into Gastrodon and into other Water-type Pokemon like Kyogre, obviously. The restricted duo of this team is the Solgaleo plus the Ho-oh. Now, this duo exists to basically make Zacian's life miserable. Zacian is still the most common restricted Pokemon in the format. Zacian Kyogre, Zacian Groudon, Zacian Calyrex Shadow Rider, still all incredibly powerful. This duo basically is almost impossible for Zacian to fight against, right? Because it just does such little damage into both. Both of them resist Behemoth Blade, Sacred Sword doesn't do much, Play Rough doesn't do much. And so if you're running just the standard Zacian set, you really can't do anything into this duo other than maybe go for a Behemoth Blade. But both Ho-oh and Solgaleo can just, tank it, right? Now, the Solgaleo here doesn't have Max Quake, so you have to be careful about that. But, even still, 2 Max Steel Spikes will KO most Zacian sets. And so combine that with Ho-oh, and you're looking really powerful. So if you go up against Zacian teams, right, often your opponent will feel forced to bring it just because it's Zacian, but then it can actually have a really tough time against this duo. To round out the team, you've got Choice Scarf, Urshifu, the Lagging Tail Grimmsnarl here with Foul Play, actually, rather than Spirit Break. Foul Play is just, I think, a good tech given all the Pokemon want to boost their attacks, and as well as the number of Calyrex Shadow Riders and Lunalas that exist, right? Foul Play is just a lot more valuable against all of those. You normally want Spirit Break, especially if you're struggling against Yveltal. And Yveltal I don't think is the easiest matchup for this team either, but we've got Mamoswine here, right? And so that brings me to the final Pokemon, which is Mamoswine. Mamoswine here is mainly designed for, I think, a lot of the electric-type Pokemon that can otherwise be a little bit difficult. Pokemon like Thundurus and Regieleki may be a little bit annoying to fight against. And so the idea is with Focus Sash, right, you can tank attacks. Earthquake has good synergy, obviously, next to Ho-oh as well. And so if you actually read the original team report from the creator, they basically listed 3 main modes that they go with. The first mode is going to be Solgaleo lead with either Eldegoss or Grimmsnarl, and then in the late game you have Ho-oh with either Urshifu or Mamoswine. That's, I think they mentioned in almost 70% of their matches. The second kind of composition that you'll go with is Solgaleo Urshifu with Eldegoss or Ho-oh / Mamoswine. And so this is against kind of slower teams that maybe don't have Tailwind or really fast electric types, for example, such as the Regieleki, right? And so one thing that's pretty interesting about Urshifu Solgaleo is that you actually have speed control with the Urshifu thanks to the Rock Tomb. So you can go Urshifu plus Solgaleo, Rock Tomb, Dynamax the Solgaleo, and then just max Rockfall into like Charizard, right? So against Charizard and Groudon, you can catch them really off guard with that surprise duo. Finally, one other mode is Ho-oh Grimmsnarl with Mamoswine, and then a fourth Pokemon in the back, most likely Solgaleo most of the time. So yeah, in the team report by the original team creator, they were like, those were the 3 main modes that they went with almost all of their battles, with the first one I mentioned being the most interesting or popular one. So yeah, I think that really describes this team, but it is just so cool to see such a unique team make it so far up on the ranked season from last season. So let's dive into the battles today. All right, our first game of the day here, and there's actually a Mienshao, which I haven't seen in a couple formats now. Mienshao was good a couple of formats ago, just because it was a pretty unique like fake out user. So we've got Mienshao, Incineroar, Mimikyu, Kyogre, Calyrex, Ice Rider, and Urshifu here. Definitely not a standard team composition. So initial impressions, I think Choice Scarf Urshifu here can be really valuable. We probably don't want Mamoswine. I don't think it's super good into either of my opponent's restricteds. Definitely going to bring both Solgaleo and Ho-oh. I am intrigued by Eldegoss here. Now, the main thing Eldegoss has to worry about is going to be the Calyrex Ice Rider, but that's where Solgaleo can be super good. Lead-wise, what do I want to go with here? Like, I'm kind of intrigued by Eldegoss and the Urshifu, as weird as that seems, because I can pressure with Sleep Powder. But I know Eldegoss plus Solgaleo is kind of a go-to lead for this team. I think that's okay here, actually. So Eldegoss, Solgaleo with Urshifu and Ho-oh in the back. This team is just so different from anything that I've played with this season, or really this format. So definitely going to take a little bit of time to get used to it, honestly. I think, like, you know, for Road to Ranked, a lot of the teams that we feature, you know, especially ones that are maybe a little bit more standard, it's super easy to pick up for me personally, just because, like, you know, I've used similar teams before. But this is just so out of left field that I you know, it's going to be interesting trying to adapt to a completely new team style. They're going to go with Incineroar and Mimikyu. Now, what's really interesting here is that the Solgaleo is actually, first of all, it's not intimidated, but it also has Sunsteel Strike. So I can actually just KO the Mimikyu through Disguise. Turn 1, I'm actually down to just Sleep Powder and Sunsteel Strike into Mimikyu. Basically, the idea here is that Incineroar, of course, can click Fake Out onto one of 2 Pokemon, but yep, they're going to target the Eldegoss here. And so there's Cotton down immediately. So that will ensure that even if you're max speed here on the Mimikyu, we can still Sunsteel Strike. But it's actually Babiri Berry. Oh, wow. Okay. Babiri Berry Mimikyu, not really that common. Normally you see something like Safety Goggles, for example. That'll actually allow it to survive. And so I assume Trick Room's going up right now. Yeah. Okay, that definitely puts us in a pretty interesting position, especially because now with their speeds dropped, Eldegoss is in a slightly weirder spot. I've still got Sleep Powder pressure, right? So what I can do here is simply just click Sleep Powder onto Incineroar and Sunsteel Strike. What's frustrating is I had Helping Hand there with Eldegoss, so I could have actually just gotten the knockout on Mimikyu there, but I didn't know if the Incineroar would be willing to maybe click Fake Out onto Solgaleo to just, you know, stop me from Sunsteel Striking. So Babiri, not exactly the most common item, but that is going to hurt a little bit here. They're actually going to Parting Shot into the Eldegoss, which I'm fine with. Now, here's my question. Do you have Taunt on Mimikyu, and did you go for it onto Eldegoss? Because if not, and I get a free Sleep Powder onto whatever's coming in, my opponent's going to be in really bad shape. It's Calyrex coming in. Yep, that's fine. Okay. So let's see. And they go for Will-O-Wisp. So if Eldegoss connects on this Sleep Powder, we're going to be in super good shape. And Sleep Powder does connect. Unless they're Lumberry here on the Calyrex, but let's see. Honestly, I think a lot of players don't even know that Eldegoss gets access to Sleep Powder. Just because it's not used in the format really at all, right? So the Will-O-Wisp obviously hurts a little bit, especially because like Assault Vest Calyrex is actually really good into my opponent's entire composition, right? It's super good into Calyrex, super good into Kyogre as well. So now it's kind of awkward because I don't really want to Dynamax this Pokemon, and I think I'd prefer to Dynamax Ho-Oh in the end game. But yeah, that worked out really well for us. Okay, Incineroar comes back out. Now this is interesting because I actually could still just Dynamax the Solgaleo and just go for Max Steel Spikes anyway. Now I risk activating a weakness policy on Calyrex. This turn is interesting because if you're my opponent, do you just say, whatever, I'm going to Dynamax the Calyrex anyway? One thing we want to obviously do is stall out Trick Room right now, but we also get defense boosts. So I actually think it's not a terrible idea to just Dynamax and Steel Strike. Got Protect, Life Orb, Recover in the back. And I've got Helping Hand here. Like, you would expect another Fake Out onto the Eldegoss slot, right? So you know what? I am down to just Helping Hand, Dynamax, and Steel Spike. There's also a chance they don't max Calyrex because obviously they have to burn a turn of sleep here. And it looks like that's what they're going to opt for. So I'll do like, I don't know, I expect 70%-ish or so with Helping Hand. But yeah, it's been so long since I've used Solgaleo, especially into Calyrex Ice Rider. But I don't know this damage calc off the top of my head, so we'll see. Either way, though, like Eldegoss has already put in a lot of work just through Sleep Powder. So there's Helping Hand. I'm hoping to see a Fake Out from Incineroar onto the Eldegoss slot, but it looks like they're actually willing to just attack here, which is fine. They actually just go for Flare Blitz. That's a little risky, I guess, because I could have just clicked Sleep Powder there. Oh, but I'll just actually get the one-hit knockout. Okay, that explains it. So we dropped their speeds right now. That's not exactly valuable for me right now, but that's okay. We've got Scarf Urshifu in the back. They take a ton of damage from Recoil. Obviously no Babiri Berry here since it was on Mimikyu, but we are burnt, so it shouldn't KO. Yeah, right around the 70% estimate that I had. Okay. Cool. So it is going to activate a weakness policy. This next turn is where things get really interesting because I think if they stay asleep, they maybe just lose the game, but if they wake up, they might win the game. Which is pretty scary to think about. If I go into Urshifu, Surging Strikes into the Incineroar slot, and just another Sun Steel or Max Steel Spike into Calyrex is pretty free. I could go into Ho-Oh as well, because then it pressures Brave Bird onto the Incineroar slot. I think Ho-Oh might be a little bit better here, because we're almost out of Trick Room, and if we stall out Trick Room, then it obviously paves the way for Urshifu. See, this turn is interesting though, right? Because there's like a 2/3 chance that the Calyrex just stays asleep. And if it stays asleep, we should just win the game. So the question is, do I want to gamble on it waking up? Because what I want to do is just Brave Bird into Incineroar here and Sunsteel Strike into Calyrex. It's a 2/3 chance to come out of the turn super positive. But then I should have just brought out Urshifu, to be honest, if I wasn't going to protect Ho-Oh here. Okay, I'm just going to go for Brave Bird. If it stays asleep here, we should just win. So, nice. Okay, they end up not maxing. I said we should just win, but I guess it's actually not over yet by any means, right? But it should put me in a really solid spot now. However, this is where I was saying, like, if I was going to gamble on a 2/3 chance anyway, I think bringing Urshifu would have just been better. Because it's just a free Surging Strikes, right? And if Incineroar Parting Shots, then Kyogre comes in and just takes so much damage from it. But, you know, Eldegoss in this game was just super critical for the Helping Hand. I just wish I went for Helping Hand on turn 1. But I wanted to cover my bases since... yeah, I think if I were my opponent choose, I'd actually consider clicking Fake Out there onto the... oh my gosh, Brave Bird with Life Orb at -1 there, by the way, does so much damage. Fake Out into Solgaleo is what I was trying to say. That also just highlights one of the unique mechanics of Solgaleo and Mimikyu, right? Like, there's so many small interactions in competitive Pokemon that it's actually really easy to miss. And, you know, I used Solgaleo at Salt Lake City Regionals back in March. And actually, one of my losses was to my opponent leading Ditto. The Ditto copied my Solgaleo, and I led Solgaleo Mimikyu, and I forgot about the fact Sunsteel Strike went through Disguise, protected my Solgaleo, and Sunsteel Strike just one-shot my Mimikyu. So, yeah. Okay, we're still not in the clear yet. The only awkward thing here is I actually don't know how fast my opponent's Kyogre is. Now, you would think Kyogre is going to Dynamax here, right? So, just double checking the speeds real quick. 118, 119. It's pretty easy to max Quake here. But we should really just look for damage on a Kyogre, right? Because then the Scarf Urshifu should just win the game. So, I'm going to just protect here and go for a Max Lightning onto the Kyogre slot. Honestly, Assault Solgaleo was so good into my opponent's entire team, right? They brought in Incineroar, Mimikyu, Calyrex-I Rider, and Kyogre. If we didn't get burnt here, like, Solgaleo actually could have just swept by itself. But I'm just so happy to have a game, our first game with the team, featuring the Eldegoss, the Assault Solgaleo, and Life Orb Ho-oh, putting in so much work here. So the game's still not over yet, but I feel decent about the spot that we're in, especially with the Scarf Urshifu in the back end, with this being the last turn of Trick Room. And with the Assault Vest here, there's no way Kyogre is going to just one-shot Solgaleo. Fake Out goes into Ho-oh. Perfect. Beautiful. Kyogre's faster than us under Trick Room, meaning we outspeed it after Trick Room is over. So Geyser goes into Ho-oh, and we actually survive as well, which is super, super clutch there, even with the critical hit. Now, the key thing to consider is that I've got this Scarf Urshifu in the back, right? So the one way I could throw this game is if I switched out the Ho-oh, I think, into Urshifu. Yeah, is that even a throw? I think we'd actually maybe still be in okay shape there, but I think Urshifu guarantees us the win with Choice Scarf in the back right now. So Trick Room expires, Dynamax ends. Now I get to use Wild Charge in Electric Terrain. That in itself might be enough to KO the Kyogre. I could recover here, because I could see them protecting Kyogre. But honestly, I'm down to just double up into Kyogre, because I'm not confident Wild Charge KOs. Even if they protect, Urshifu just comes in for free and wins the game for us. So this should be a wrap. Nice, and they don't protect. Wild Charge actually did not get the knockout, and as you can see, Kyogre did not protect there, right? So no need to get fancy with the recover, because like, what does recover actually accomplish for us? Not very much, to be honest. I think the Eldegoss getting that free Sleep Powder on a Calyrex was just so huge in this game, though, right? And I obviously got a little bit lucky hitting the Sleep Powder and then getting 2 turns of sleep from my opponent as well. But getting this, like, the Sleep Powder there is just so nice, because it puts my opponent in such a difficult position, right? Because then you're stuck with 2 Pokemon on the field that are both not really super solid Dynamax options in the Incineroar and the Calyrex. Yep. So now Scarf Urshifu comes out, and that should be GG. That was a really fun way to kick off this team, though. I'm just glad to feature the Eldegoss. Now, what was interesting is that like the speed drops in this game actually weren't super helpful, because my opponent had a Trick Room-oriented team. But Eldegoss just provided so much support between Helping Hand, between the Sleep Powder, and my opponent dedicated a turn with Flare Blitz from Incineroar to KO it, right? That always works out for us as well. So, yeah, Surging Strikes here just finishes the game. I think my opponent maybe could have considered a Dynamax Incineroar in this game, actually, but it makes sense as to why they didn't feel super comfortable doing so. Like, if they had Dynamax Incineroar against the Eldegoss, you could Max Flare, get the one-hit KO there, and then suddenly Incin under Trick Room actually can do a lot of damage to my entire team. So, I'm just really happy to feature the Eldegoss and the Solgaleo Ho-oh core. So, yeah, let's look for another. Next game here, and it is Kyogre, Groudon, Venusaur, Grimm, Thundurus, Bronzong. That's awesome. So definitely not going up against kind of the standard restricted duos today, but I'm totally okay with that. It's always fun both to play against, and I'm sure for the viewers as well. So this is actually interesting, because one of the reasons Eldegoss is on this team is because it can actually resist both water and ground type attacks from Kyogre and Groudon. We've got the Koba Berry to deal with the Thundurus as well, which is valuable. And it's got Sleep Powder. I wonder if we can bring Mamoswine into this one. Like, I can also trick Lagging Tail, right? Man, all of our Pokemon are pretty decent here is the thing. So I don't know who to drop. Basically, like, as the report mentioned, the standard modes are Solgaleo, Eldegoss, or Grimm. I think Solgaleo plus Grimm here is pretty solid. I don't know, it's just if Eldegoss gets a Sleep Powder off, it's so nice. Maybe I'm kind of getting baited into bringing it here. But I'm down to still try it out. So Eldegoss, Solgaleo, Ho-oh. I think all of our Pokemon are really solid here. So finding the right forward is actually really difficult in my opinion. I think like there's so much flexibility in what we can bring here. And I also want to give Mamoswine a shot here over the Urshifu, because Mamoswine's really good into Thundurus. But yeah, there are plenty of different ways we could have played this. I don't know if I brought the best 4, right? But we'll see. Either way, I think like it gives us a lot of tools to work with. Grimm is probably objectively a stronger lead here, but they go with Grimm and Kyogre. So honestly, I'm decently content with this. Solgaleo obviously has a pretty favorable matchup into Kyogre. Turn 1, I could even just go Helping Hand Max Lightning onto Kyogre immediately, which is interesting. They're leading Kyogre. It makes me think they want to Dynamax here, right? Helping Hand Lightning is one play. Helping Hand Sunsteel Strike is another. Sleep Powder plus Lightning. Oh, that doesn't work. Because I would just set up Electric Terrain. Honestly, I'm pretty down to go for Helping Hand and Max Lightning here, I think. Like, the logic here is that... Okay, they're either slower, they're not Dynamaxing. I wonder which one of the two it is. The logic here is that even if Grimmsnarl sets up Reflect, the Helping Hand is just so powerful for Solgaleo, and then we set up Electric Terrain as well, that we'd get 2 really powerful Max Lightnings off. Enough that I would hope it would KO Dynamax Kyogre unless it's ultra bulky, but it is actually slow Kyogre here. Slower than Solgaleo. I think that's actually really good for us. Because we'll get Helping Hand Lightning off immediately, but now I'm a little bit scared about where we go from here. What's also interesting, though, is does the Kyogre respect Eldegoss, right? Or do you just go for Geyser onto the Solgaleo slot instead? I also felt the need to Dynamax here, because otherwise I think the Kyogre can just do too much damage with Max Geyser here. Trick Iron Ball? It's actually the lagging tail set. Okay. So the one interesting thing here is it does steal away my Assault Vest, meaning that now the Grimmsnarl is in a really awkward spot. And that does so much damage into Kyogre. Wow. Oh my gosh. The thing now, though, is that Geyser is obviously going to do more damage to my Solgaleo, and I'm going to be slower than it next turn. But they do go for Hailstorm. Okay. I wonder then... Oh, that doesn't even KO Eldegoss. Okay. I was going to say, I wonder then if a Brave Bird was going to KO the Kyogre. So, Conandown comes out. Not affected on Solgaleo. Solgaleo's first. Ooh, Eldegoss is faster than your Kyogre now, thanks to Conandown. Now, that feature is... that exactly highlights why Conandown's so valuable, right? What's most likely going to happen here is I would expect Kyogre to Protect and Grimmsnarl to just Spirit Break and try to KO Eldegoss. I could switch out, but I think Eldegoss has honestly done its job with that powerful turn 1. So, I am willing to just go for Leaf Storm in case they don't respect the offensive option that we have, and then just Steel Spike into Grimmsnarl. And it could be Assault Vest Kyogre, right? I don't think we saw a Life Orb there. I should be paying better attention there. But if it were a Life Orb, surely would have KO'd. Okay, Grimm actually switches. Ooh, into Bronzong. Okay, now, Bronzong's not that scary because I've got Ho-Oh in the back, and they don't protect Kyogre, which is excellent, but yep, that's Assault Vest. Okay. And there's Max Geyser. Now, what's interesting is this actually changes the weather, so you're not going to KO the Eldegoss via Hail. Now, this next turn, it means Eldegoss can Sleep Powder into Bronzong. Interesting. Bronzong is pretty annoying here, honestly. It actually did a ton of damage for a not very effective attack. The thing is, I know I have a guaranteed KO on Kyogre if I want to take it, but I don't love the idea of Bronzong Iron Defensing and boosting up because I actually brought all physical Pokemon, and this is where having Urshifu actually would have been so much better against Bronzong. Because, like, the Mamoswine is actually pretty useless against it, but Ho-Oh can Sacred Fire, Fish for Burns, and stall it out. My other fear here is just Geyser does KO the Solgaleo. Given how much that last one did, I actually think it does get the knockout, which isn't good. Groudon's going to be in the back, right? Which Ho-Oh and Mamoswine are decent against. I should have brought Urshifu here, I guess, but Mamo is really good into Thundurus, which is the main reason I brought that. Okay, I'm going to go for Sleep Powder here on the Bronzong. And I meant to target the Kyogre there, because we know Oh, they switched out though. Okay. Although Sunsteel Strike into that spot would have been pretty appreciated. Okay, they go into Grim. That works very well for us in my opinion, especially if the Sleep Powder connects. Nice. This puts my opponent in a really weird spot now, I think. Because what can I do this next turn? I can actually just switch Eldegoss safely out into Ho-Oh and just Sunsteel Strike into Grimmsnarl. Them having Trick Lagging Tail also made this game a lot harder, by the way. And, you know, they went for a very nice play on turn 1. Yeah, I honestly feel like I didn't think enough about Bronzong in Team Preview here. But since we are relying very heavily on physical attackers, I don't have too many Bronzong answers. Urshifu, however, was the clear solution into it. So, smart of my opponent to bring it. I'm just going to pivot out into Ho-Oh now. And Sunsteel Strike into Grim. Now, what's also interesting is that we know that the Kyogre is slow, given that Solgaleo outsped it on turn 1 of the game. So we're one Brave Bird away from KOing the Kyogre, and we know that Kyogre is Assault Vested, so it can't protect either. That's also really valuable information. So I'm curious if Groudon's our last one, because if so, the Ho-Oh is actually going to give them a lot of trouble. There's Spirit Break. We know, obviously, Grim has the Assault Vest now. Even if Bronzong wakes up and gets an Iron Defense up here, it's not the end of the world. Looks like they're actually trying to set up Trick Room. Because, yeah. Otherwise, they would have moved before the Solgaleo, given the Lagging Tail. Trick Room makes a lot of sense for them here. If they get it up, I'm actually going to be in a good amount of trouble, I think. And they do wake up and manage to set it up. Okay. So, I think this game highlights, like, you can't just rely on sleep all the time with the Eldegoss, right? Even if I had Urshifu here, honestly, Trick Room is not exactly the easiest matchup to go up against. They played this game really nicely, so kudos. Groudon is going to be the final Pokemon here. So how do I win the game from this point, assuming they have a Rock-type attack on the Groudon? It's pretty difficult because... I mean, I have this Mamoswine in the back, which can Ice Skull Crash. Like, I assume they have a Rock-type attack here onto us, right? In order to win the game, I need to stall out Trick Room right now. So it would start with maybe a Protect here from the Ho-Oh. Now, I am at +2 defense, so I can definitely take a Precipice Blades. The other question is, do I ever just say, you know what, I'm just going to go for the attack right now? It's actually pretty interesting to consider, but I think if Ho-Oh faints, I can't beat Bronzong with the rest of my Pokemon, so... I'm going to go for the Protect on Steel Strike this turn. Yeah, them getting the Trick Lagging Tail on a Solgaleo turn 1 was just so strong. So there's Iron Defense, yep. Really, really cool team. Yep, they go for Rock Slide. I don't even know if that KOs Ho-Oh, to be honest. So, like, there is a world in which I just attack next turn. I get crit, okay. No flinch, at least. I don't know how much this will do. 40, 50 is my guess. Yeah, they're going to have HP and defense, so probably closer to 40. Yeah. Okay, I mean, if our goal is to stall out the Rock Slide right now, I don't think I'm beating Bronzong at this point in the game, truthfully, unless I actually manage to fully stall out Trick Room. But the other question is, if I think I can survive a Rock Slide here, I could just go straight up for Sacred Fire right now. Given that they have Rock Slide and not Rock Tomb or Stone Edge, I think Ho can actually survive. The alternative is to just switch out into Eldegoss right now. I think there's too much to risk here if I stay in, so I am going to switch out and then just go for another Sunsteel Strike on a Groudon. Because, like, we can actually stall out Trick Room right now. The only scary thing is it's like, going to be Ho-Oh in the rain. But with Sacred Fire and Recover, I think we can actually stall out our the game against the Bronzong. Okay, there's Body Press. Yep, they go for Rock Slide again. Good. Also hoping to avoid a flinch here, obviously. With this, Groudon might actually be an Ice Shard KO range. Cotton down here is not actually good for us, but it doesn't matter since they're already going to be slower than us. I guess there was a chance this was fast Groudon, actually. Oh, that's a really tough flinch. Because if I don't flinch there, I get another Sunsteel Strike off, and then Ice Shard should just KO Groudon. That's actually... That might just lose us the game, unfortunately. That stings. But I needed to not get flinched from 2 Rock Slides, and the odds of that aren't, like, amazing. Now if I bring out Mamoswine, their place to what? Just Precipice Blades and Body Press into Mamo. Okay, I see one path to victory here. I just feel bad because I think we actually had a decent path to victory if we didn't flinch there. It depends on whether or not Ice Shard would have KO'd Groudon, but Groudon would have been at like 20%, so I think it definitely would have. Okay, now how do we win this game? I have to hope for them to Body Press and Precipice Blades here. So what I'm going to do is protect the Mamoswine here, switch out into Ho-Oh, and then next turn, protect Ho-Oh, switch the Solgaleo out into, or sorry, Mamoswine out into Solgaleo to sacrifice it. Tough flinch, but like I said, can't really complain too much about it. They actually, okay, they protect Groudon. I'll take that. This means, like, this turn I was a little bit nervous of them reading it and just Rock Sliding, but now I don't even have to worry about that. And they do go for another Iron Defense, though, which is a great play. That was a really safe play, so yeah, nicely done. Okay, last turn of Trick Room now. Bronzong's revealed Iron Defense, Body Press, Trick Room. Haven't seen the 4th. This turn now I am going to finally just protect Ho-Oh. And like I mentioned, try to sacrifice Solgaleo here. I guess the tricky thing is then Bronzong can just set up another Trick Room on me, so I still probably have lost this game. Basically, what I was hoping for is if we KO the Groudon, right, and we have Sash on Mamoswine, so I can take a Body Press, we know that the Kyogre in the back can't protect. So I can essentially pick up 2 knockouts back-to-back turns, but now, with no clear... Oh, okay, they actually switch out. That's interesting. Makes sense, though. Yeah, with this, they can get another Trick Room up, and they should be able to win the game, I think. Unless Groudon misses Rock Slide on Ho-Oh. Like, anything can still happen right now, but I think if Bronzong had taken 1 extra turn to sleep in this game, or we didn't get flinched, the game would have been in a much better position. I don't know if we still would have been in, like, a winning spot, but we definitely would have at least been... Ooh! Skill Swap is the last move. Ooh, okay. Did not expect that. I have to Brave Bird Kyogre here, unfortunately. That was really cool. Although, I don't know if Skill Swap would have really done much, because it's not like Regenerator helps them out. Skill Swap's neat, though, because with Kyogre and Groudon, you can change the weather with both Mons that way. With Lagging Tail here, it's just such a nightmare on Solgaleo. I'm going to Psychic Fangs here because it covers for a switch and Brave Bird into Kyogre as well. Now they get Rain Up as well, so that's obviously not good. Like the thing is, I think we maybe can survive a Rock Slide from Groudon, and if that's the case, Ho-Oh can still win us this game, but now the game is just so much more difficult. Especially with the amount of recoil I'll take. Yeah, I don't feel super confident with that, honestly. And we do literally no damage. So they will get Trick Room up for a second time. I think if I had brought my own Grimmsnarl here, I could have tricked a Lagging Tail into their end, and that would have given me a pretty significant advantage. But it's hard to feel super comfortable with that. But this is a game I don't mind losing too much. Like, there were a couple things that could have gone better for us, whether it be Bronzong staying asleep for another turn, right, because I got a 1-turn wake, or if we don't flinch the Groudon there, it should be an Ice Shard KO range, and then I actually think we'd win the game. But my opponent also played super well, I think, and I didn't really think too much about, like, how I could beat Bronzong in this game. There is another win condition here. Like, basically, I mean, this turn they're going to Rock Slide and Body Press, you would think, right? So I can protect Ho-Oh, get the free switch into Mamoswine. I guess there's also a chance, like, they double up onto the Ho-Oh here. And then if I actually get Sunsteel Strike off into Groudon and it's an Ice Shard KO range, then we might also be able to win. Okay, they do just Body Press into Soul. That should KO, right? Yeah. So basically, this next turn, I was going to say I could go... Oh my gosh, that was actually a really risky Swords Dance from them, but that'll win them the game. Nicely done. Yeah, because if I had actually just gone for Sacred Fire onto Groudon there, they would lose the game there. So I didn't think they ever needed to risk the Swords Dance, but I guess not knowing how much Rock Slide was going to do into Ho-Oh... Like I said, I thought we could actually survive there, so maybe I should have just risked the Sacred Fire. Now they'll definitely KO with the Rock Slide, so I could hope for a double protect or a miss, basically. I think my play here is to Ice Go Crash into the Groudon and go for the Protect. That was like a really high risk, high reward play in my opinion. Although, like, I don't know if they needed it, but they probably weren't sure if they were going to KO Ho-Oh, right? So it makes a ton of sense. But now I'm obviously regretting not just clicking Sacred Fire there. I didn't ever think they'd risk something like that, but really well done. Yeah, I'm willing to go for the double here because they, like, if I get it or they miss, so we don't get it, that's fine. Body Press is going to come out. Yeah, I would need a double miss here from the Rock Slide, actually. And they connect on both. Okay, really well played. I'm a little frustrated myself, I guess, for not just going for Sacred Fire. I'm going to do the damage calc against Groudon there, because if Rock Slide were to just one-shot anyway, then obviously, like, it's not something I should go for. But I actually could have just easily won the game there by clicking Sacred Fire into Groudon. And they found, you know, the Swords Dance play, and it wins them the game immediately. So kudos to them there. But yeah, I'm really curious about that damage calc, so I'll pull it up real quick. So if you look here, Rock Slide actually would not have KO'd Ho-Oh in the majority of situations if they had just gone for it over Swords Dance. We had 175 HP, and if you look at the damage rolls there, a lot of them actually fall under 175. But the thing is, I would have fainted from Life Orb afterwards, right? And so the thing is, if you encounter Life Orb as well, then we're in a much worse position, right? Because, yes, Sacred Fire can go onto Groudon or Bronzong, but Bronzong already had these defense boosts. I actually was curious about the Bronzong damage calc, so if you look at it here, at +4 defense with Sun, even with Life Orb, like, we only do 46 to 55%. And so that was just a masterclass in Bronzong, right? In order for me to beat the Bronzong in that matchup, what I have to essentially do is KO everything around the Bronzong and have it so it's Ho-Oh against Bronzong, and essentially keep going for Sacred Fires, go for Burn. We have Recover on the Ho-Oh, so we can heal up consistently, but without having any other special attackers on the team, or any special attackers outside of Eldegoss, which obviously can't do anything into Bronzong, it's actually a pretty scary matchup. But my opponent positioned the Bronzong really well, right? They got it into a position where it wasn't really at much risk of taking damage from Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is actually this team's only real way of answering Bronzong. Urshifu could work with Surging Strikes, right? Because it can at least crit through. But even crit Surging Strikes, like with Bronzong having leftovers and just so much defense, it's not just like a clear win against it, right? Because yeah, you can crit through the Iron Defense, but if Bronzong's already gotten a bunch of defense boosts, then you have to worry about Body Press going on to you. So, which we're going to see how that would have played out without the flinch. But like I said, right, the odds of me flinching once out of 2 Rock Slide hits are pretty decent there. Now, what is interesting is, you know, in my head, I was like, okay, the win condition's pretty narrow here because if they just go for Rock Slide, I should lose. But I actually could have gone for the win con of them greeting Swords Dance, which is actually what they did. Now, obviously, I don't know about their moveset in that position other than them having White Herb. But if I had actually clicked Sacred Fire there onto the Groudon, that should get the one-hit KO. Then Bronzong doesn't do any damage into Ho-Oh. They KO the Solgaleo. And suddenly we have an endgame where it's Ho-Oh in the sun plus Mamoswine against Bronzong. And so, you know, I was thinking, okay, I basically have lost this game. That's why I thought my opponent's Rock Slide or Swords Dance over Rock Slide was a little bit high risk, high reward, but it paid off super heavily, right? So I could have actually just gone for the win con of them greeting a boost there and just Sacred Fired into the Groudon slot. But at the time, I didn't think that was the path to victory. And losing that way always can sting a little bit because it was a really great read by my opponent's end. And if I'd actually just greeted a little bit with my Ho there, we actually could have won, but they made the right call there in the end, so kudos. Either way, though, that was a really cool team from them. And I think they played that super well as well between the Grimmsnarl, like just, you know, shutting down Solgaleo early on and then getting Bronzong into a really nice spot. So we've had 2 long games here. Let's look for one last one. Third game of the day here, and this is a lot more standard. It's just kind of classic Zacian Kyogre. This is, you know, super similar to the team that made it to the finals of the North American Internationals. And I believe the same 6 Pokemon here actually won Japanese Nationals. I'm curious if it's the same sets as the one from Japan Nats. Solgaleo theoretically here should be amazing. We've got Max Mindstorm into Amoonguss, Max Lightning into Kyogre. Interestingly enough, no Max Quake actually into Zacian, so that's one thing to worry about a little bit. I think the key thing is I'm not bringing Mamoswine into this matchup. It's do I want Grimm or Urshifu? Because Urshifu, if they get Tailwind up, is really, really useless. Grimm's a little bit more consistent there. I think in this one I'm down for... I was going to say Grimm and Zacian, but I think if I were them, I'd actually just lead Tornadus plus Zacian. Sorry, I was going to say Grimm plus Solgaleo. Okay, what if I go with Ho-Oh plus Grimm? Eldegoss and Solgaleo. Here's the logic. I think what I want to do is, if they lead Kyogre, I can just trick Lagging Tail onto it immediately. That puts us in a decent position. And if they lead Zacian, I can just fish for Sacred Fire into Zacian and even pivot like Grim out into Eldegoss. Then what we're angling for is to get in the Grimmsnarl back out and then just get the Lagging Tail into Kyogre. But Torn Ogre, Torn Zacian are both really common leads with this kind of team. It's Kartana Kyogre though. Okay. I don't mind that. I don't mind that one bit. I guess this is interesting though, because I should be slower than Kyogre here. I've got Trick, but it's Lagging Tail. And what they could do is actually just protect Kyogre and like Steel Spike Grim. Protect Kyogre, Steel Spike into Grim. Did they really do that? I do want to get the Lagging Tail onto the Kyogre, because I want Ho-oh and Solgaleo to outspeed it. Okay, turn one I'm going to protect here, and try to trick onto Kyogre. Okay, Kartana switches. That's already an excellent start. Into Incin. Yep, that's fine. However, I think this means that Kyogre is most likely protecting this turn. Which is then a net negative for me, because then you can just fake out and max next turn. But Ho-oh protects first. Oh, sweet. Okay, that's really, really nice. Okay, so we get the Lagging Tail onto Kyogre. Now my opponent should be a little bit scared about just Dynamaxing it. They are Life Orb as well. I wonder if we survive now that I've stolen Life Orb. I would think so. They do have Life Orb and Origin Pulse, which is interesting. Cool. I do survive. The play for them next turn is to fake out Grim and just Origin Pulse again. Don't want Ho-oh to take an Origin Pulse, and I'm intimidated, so I'm down to switch out into Eldegoss here. I don't think I'll get Reflect Up ever, because I assume Fake Out's going to Grim, but there's a world in which they Parting Shot the Ho-oh instead of going for Fake Out. But I think if they were to allow me to get a free Screens Up here, it would not be beneficial for them. There's Eldegoss. Okay, we actually get a free Reflect Up. I will gladly take that. Now, I could lose both Pokemon here, but yep, they go for Parting Shot. Eldegoss is so nice here to switch in for this, because it just doesn't care about that at all. And now, we're in this really interesting position. I think the thing I'm basically debating about is, do I want to Dynamax Solgaleo or Ho-oh, right? Oh, it's Tornadus, Kartana, Kyogre, Incin. Okay. I actually miss Origin Pulse on the Eldegoss, which is fairly fortunate for us. I think it should be we Dynamax the Solgaleo, because they're going to have a really tough time against Ho-oh with Kartana. So what I can do is bring out Solgaleo right now. They might have Hurricane, so they could just Hurricane onto Eldegoss and like Ice Beam. Yeah, I mean, I'm down to just Sleep Powder Kyogre here, because we have the Berry, Dynamax, and then just Rockfall into Tornadus, which should KO it, even if it has Focus Sash. Once you get rid of Tornadus, then Ho-oh can come back in. I don't even care about missing Sleep Powder here. Like, I think one thing to talk about while using Eldegoss is that, like, you don't want to just rely on Sleep Powder. Okay, that's actually probably Kartana coming in. That's a great switch. I'm still fine with that for now. Eldegoss wasn't going to do anything else relevant here. The only downside is now I reveal I have Sleep Powder, but that's honestly okay. I think the main thing I'm kind of nervous about here is not being able to one-shot the Incineroar, and then like Incineroar being able to cycle and Intimidate back and forth. Because the Solgaleo here, unfortunately, does not really have the best matchup into Kartana. Now, I have Reflect Up. Ooh, they're just going for Confusion on Soul. Okay, they don't get it. I definitely held my breath there for a moment, though. Okay. So we get Rockfall. This is actually a big deal, because the thing is now they have to bring out Kyogre or the Incineroar, right? And with either, I can just go for Helping Hand plus Max Move. The thing is, if you bring out Kyogre, you probably just protect the Kyogre. Dynamax Kartana, then Airstream into Eldegoss, I suppose. So if they bring out Kyogre, basically, the thing is, do I want to read into that? Right, Kyogre protecting, because it's so obvious. Like, I could even switch Eldegoss out into the Ho-Oh. I mean, it's just, in what world did they ever not protect Kyogre here, right? So basically, there are two plays here. Helping Hand Max Lightning is the first play. Switch Eldegoss out into Ho-Oh and Lightning is another play. Or I could Steel Spike Kartana here, expecting them to just go for the obvious play. I think Kyogre has to protect here, but I don't want to gamble in, switch in Ho-Oh, and just like lose Ho-Oh for no reason. So I'm actually down to just stay in and go for Helping Hand plus Max Lightning onto the Kyogre slot. And if they stay in here and don't protect, I guess it could be Kyogre Dynamax. That's the other thing I didn't think about. But if they stay in and they don't protect and don't Dynamax, they lose the game immediately. And the reason for that is because then we should survive any attack from the Kartana, especially with the Koba Berry. You bring in Incineroar, Helping Hand, Rockfall, KO, Incin, and then Sacred Fire to beat the Kartana. But I think Kyogre has to protect here. There's Helping Hand. Yeah, there's Protect. It's still fine though, right? Because it's like, what do you do? Maybe go for a Max Airstream, but it's still okay. Oh, they actually offer Steel Spike. Okay. Into Eldegoss. Is that even a 2-hit KO? It's close. The defense boosts don't really help them that much in the long run. I actually like didn't think about the implications of how Cotton Down would affect this game. That should mean that we're actually faster now with Ho-Oh. Oh, that's actually such a big deal. Yeah, Cotton Down is actually so good for us right now. The thing though is that they could just go for a Max Airstream to get their speed back up, right? Which is what they should go for right now. Like, if you're my opponent, your play is actually just pivot Kyogre out now into the Incineroar. Because you know another Helping Hand Lightning is coming your way. So I'm basically debating here, like, do I ever click Max Rockfall instead? I think I'm down for it because even if they don't switch, like, I have Assault Vest here. Nice, and they switch. Beautiful. But the thing is, it could still be... No, Soak should be faster than Kartana now, right? So if we one-shot Incineroar here, we should be in incredible shape. Even if they Airstream. Either way, though, I'm glad to have gotten that turn correctly. Helping Hand. Yeah, we're faster. Let's go, Eldegoss. With the EVs, like, I don't think... Even if you're max speed on Kartana here, we should always outpace you. I think it's like base 110 or anything under at -1. The Slogan Hole can outspeed. Okay, they actually just go for another Steel Spike. I wonder if that we can survive with Reflect here. Eldegoss, you're so clutch, and the reason why that's such a big deal is because it denies them a free Beast Boost, right? And it drops their speed once again. Okay. So, Eldegoss feints. This was actually, I think, maybe the perfect demonstration for Eldegoss. It was obviously really clutch in both of the previous games, but I'm just glad I've brought it out in all three today and for it to do work in all three. And it was so critical in this end game for speed control. The game's still not over, but we should be in a super favorable position at this point because I don't think my opponent's ever beating the Ho-Oh. So, Kyogre here should go for the safe Protect, right? Yeah, and even if they max Airstream, it doesn't matter because you're at -2 speed now. Yeah, so we should be in excellent shape. I'm willing to honestly just... Okay, let me think about this a little bit. Because I was like, I can just Brave Bird and Wild Charge Kyogre here. What can Cardon do that even scares me? I guess max Airstream into Ho-Oh at best, but I still have Reflect up here. I guess the other play is to actually just Protect. Yeah, I think Protect Wild Charge here is fine. Especially because I still have Assault Vest on Solgaleo. Just avoids like risking a critical hit here from Kartana potentially. But they didn't protect Kyogre, so yeah, double up there would have won us the game. Although Wild Charge actually in terrain gets us the KO, so never mind, we're good. There's no need to double up there. Yeah, like terrain was up and they didn't have the defense boost, and so yeah, that was actually always just better. And yeah, they Airstream. What's interesting here is you can see how anti-Zacian this team is, right? And like my opponent doesn't feel comfortable bringing Zacian because this Ho-Oh Solgaleo combination is just so good into Zacian, right? Like those are two of the worst restricteds for Zacian to go up against. it's really, really tough for Zacian to do much there. So yeah, but as a result, like, you just don't have too much offense, and I think with their lead and with the switch out turn 1 rather than like pushing the tempo immediately, it put us in a really favorable position. So yep, now we just Sacred Fire, and Cortana's never really beating Ho-Oh here. I think, like, this is why I was prioritizing getting the Lagging Tail into Kyogre, by the way, because I thought Kyogre was clearly the best Dynamax option for my opponent, right? Like, Cortana, Tornadus, Incin, like, they don't obviously scare me nearly as much, but Dynamax Life from Kyogre with those Max Geysers can do so much. So if my opponent actually had just protected Kyogre turn 1, they wouldn't have been in a much better position. But I think this game and the previous game highlights the value of the Lagging Tail on the Grimmsnarl, because it, in game 2, it put me in a much tougher position, right? And in this game, it gave me such a huge advantage after turn 1. Now, in turn 1 alone, like, it didn't necessarily just win me the game, right? But it meant that I can now play with a lot more confidence against Kyogre. It is really hard to feel confident Dynamaxing a Pokemon that has the Lagging Tail onto it. So my opponent in their head was probably like, okay, well, I can't Dynamax this at this point, which we were able to use towards our advantage. But this team is really fun. It is truly anti-meta, like, and, you know, was able to finish in the top 5 of the last ranked season. And so I hope you all give it a try. I think these games were all really enjoyable, and I'm excited to play a little bit more with it. So thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to check out the team report and the team creator down in the description below, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.